The first sound wasn't the wind. It was the ice cracking under thousands of tons of pressure. A sound so deep it felt like the planet itself was splitting open. Imagine standing on a frozen sea where the temperature bites at -40 degrees. The horizon is a seamless white, and the sun disappears for months. Now imagine knowing your ship, your only way back to civilizations, being crushed like a toy between drifting ice floes. This is the moment 28 men realized they were stranded at the bottom of the world. And the mystery is, how did any of them survive? In August 1914, as World War I erupted, Ernest Shackleton launched an expedition into Antarctica, his dream. The first land crossing of the entire continent. Their ship, the Endurance, pushed south through the Weddell Sea, where pack ice reached nearly 10 feet thick, drifting with wind patterns that could trap a vessel in hours. The crew heard the hull groaning as pressure ridges, some rising 30 feet high, closed in around them. Still, morale stayed high. They trained sled dogs, photographed wildlife, and prepared for the crossing. But by January 1915, the ship was locked in a vise of solid ice. Temperatures hovered around -15, dropping fast. They waited for a thaw that never came. Weeks turned into months. The ice tightened. The drift carried them over 600 miles away from their intended path, deep into the polar desert. Then, on October 27, 1915, came the moment that changed everything. The ice shifted violently. Massive floes tilted. Wooden beams snapped like gunfire. Shackleton gave the command that no expedition leader ever wants to say, "Abandon ship." The real ordeal hadn't even begun. The Endurance finally slipped beneath the ice in November 1915. The crew watched her bow rise, fall, and disappear under a pressure depth that reached over 5,000 psi more force than most steel hulls could withstand. Now stranded on a drifting ice shelf, the men converted tents into makeshift homes and rationed food down 2 ounces per day. Scientist Reginald James recorded ice drift patterns, confirming they were floating north at 1 to 2 miles per day, pushed by wind and the massive clockwise Weddell Gyre. Temperatures plunged to -40 degrees. Every sound, the cracking of floes, the growl of storms, meant danger. A single break in the ice could swallow their camp. Then came a verified discovery. The drifting ice wasn't just moving. It was fracturing beneath them at unpredictable intervals. Creeks became booms. Campsites split apart right in front of their eyes. Shackleton realized staying meant death. In April 1916, after camping on the ice for nearly 500 days, the floe beneath them shattered. Their survival gear was scattered. The ocean surged through the cracks. There was only one choice left. Launch the small open lifeboats. The men pushed off into the freezing Weddell Sea, water temperature 28 degrees, cold enough to kill in minutes. They battled 40-foot waves, snow squalls, and winds hitting 60 miles per hour. Salt water soaked their clothes, turning the fabric stiff with ice. Navigation was nearly impossible. Using a sextant, Frank Worsley measured the sun's angle through clouds, sometimes capturing only a few seconds of visibility. One calculation error could send them hundreds of miles off course. After 7 days, exhausted and half-frozen, they reached the desolate shores of Elephant Island, the first solid ground in 497 days. But it wasn't salvation. No ships passed there. Not a single whaling route, and the island escape exposed them to brutal Katabatic winds flowing off Antarctica at 70 miles per hour. Shackleton knew staying meant slow death. He made a decision that still stands as one of the most daring survival gambles in history. Take the strongest lifeboat, the James Caird, and sail 800 miles across the stormiest ocean on Earth to South Georgia. The James Caird left Elephant Island on April 24, 1916. The boat was only 22 feet long, carrying 6 men, 1,000 pounds of rocks for ballast, and a canvas deck sealed with oil paint and blood to keep water out. The Southern Ocean hammered them with waves, reaching 50 to 60 feet, the height of a 6-story building. Verified scientific data shows that this region holds some of the highest wave energy on Earth, driven by winds circling Antarctica with no land to slow them. Temperatures hovered at freezing. Sea spray crystallized on ropes and faces. Ice formed so thick on the hull that they had to smash it off with axes to prevent capsizing. Then came the revelation. Worsley, His navigational readings were accurate within a single mile, an almost impossible feat using a sextant on a violently pitching boat. His calculations kept them aligned with South Georgia instead of drifting into the Atlantic to die. After 16 days of non-stop storms, they spotted black cliffs, land. But survival wasn't guaranteed yet. The men landed on the wrong side of the island, separated from help by unmapped mountain ranges up to 4,500 feet, covered in glaciers. Shackleton, Worsley, and Crean set out across the mountains with only 50 feet of rope, a carpenter's adze, and screws in their boots for traction. No tents, no sleeping bags. If they stopped moving, they would freeze. The interior of South Georgia was a labyrinth of crevasses, ridges, and glaciers sliding under their feet. Elevation increased sharply, with slopes of 40 to 60 degrees. A wind chill approaching -20, and the landscape roaring with the sound of avalanches. They climbed peaks over 3,000 feet, navigating by instinct and the faint glow of dawn. At one point, trapped on a ridge, with no way forward, they made a terrifying decision: slide, blind, down a mountainside. They hurled themselves into the darkness, praying the slope didn't end in cliffs. By sheer luck, it didn't. After 36 hours of non-stop marching, they saw something no one expected in the Antarctic wilderness: a whaling station, chimney smoke rising. Civilization. Help. But would they get back to Elephant Island in time? It took 4 rescue attempts. Sea ice blocked the first. Storms turned back the second. Drift patterns shifted unpredictably, closing entire passages overnight. Months passed. Shackleton refused to give up. Finally, on August 30th, 1916, early, 2 years after the ordeal began, the Chilean vessel Yalcho slipped through a narrow break in the pack. Shackleton scanned Elephant Island with binoculars, heart pounding. Then he counted them. 1, 2, 10, 27, 20-8. Every single man was alive. This remains one of the greatest real survival stories ever recorded. An expedition, crushed by ice pressure stronger than industrial hydraulic machines, carried thousands of miles by drifting floes, battered by the most violent seas on Earth. Yet no one died. When the men stepped onto the rescue ship, some hadn't seen a tree, felt warm rain, or stood on grass in 600 days. But they had survived the impossible. In the silence of Antarctica, survival becomes a dialogue between humans and nature, a test of endurance measured not in miles, but in will. If this journey moves you, explore more real mysteries with us. Stories like this remind us that nature, ice and tea, just a backdrop, it is a force that shapes destiny. Shackleton's men endured cold, pressure, hunger, and the vast indifference of the polar world, and still found a way home. What would we discover about ourselves in a place where the planet feels alive and ancient? What mysteries lie in the oceans, ice, and sky that we still haven't unlocked? Share your thoughts, your theories, your questions. Follow Untold Mystery for more real-world mysteries that challenge what we think is possible. And as always, thanks for watching.